you don't see this in the video right now, but we have a Christmas tree, and it's June. And we're in North Carolina, and it's 76 degrees now, going to be mid-80s. And we are in a room surrounded by Santa Claus and reindeer, Christmas tree.
Christmas geese kinds of stuff. And we got the dog here accompanying us.
Yes.
Probably the most intelligent comments that come from her.
the smartest one in the room. And I got to say, what's Mom's deal? She set up for Christmas 3 years ago and just never took it down?
That's about it. As far as I can tell, that's what happened there. Yeah.
And I suppose some of the stuff in the tubs get spread throughout the house.
Yes, I think so, yeah.
But then it all comes back that it's just, I don't know if it's genius or lazy. I don't know.
But she's got so many of those tubs with Easter decorations and 4th of July decorations and so on that the garage is full of that stuff.
Now, are they color-coded?
No, they're not, but they're labeled.
They're labeled, yeah. I have never gotten to the point to have all of our tubs. Most of our Christmas stuff is red and green, but we never had it to where, Easter was like pastel colors or whatever it might be.
Oh, okay.
But yeah.
It never even occurred to me to color coded it,
You see at the grocery store often, or at the department store or whatever, at the end of a season, they put out all the red tubs. The end of Halloween season, they put out all the yellow tubs.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I can guarantee you there are houses out there where garages are completely color-coded in their holiday setup. So, well, we're going to just bring some Christmas cheer to our conversation today, I think. So.
Well, that's wonderful. Yeah. Could use that in June.
Nice.
You are listening to the Soapbox. I'm Paul.
And I'm Eric.
This all started out with a list. What's that all about?
So I've compiled a list over the years of things that just bother me, things that grind my gears. And I shared that list with you.
And I thought, you know what? That would make interesting conversation. Sometimes I'm going to want to agree with you, and it's just going to be something we talk about. Other times, though, I'm going to want to steel man the opposite position because I think that's just interesting conversation.
Yeah, and keep in mind, I'm always right, but Paul's just a really good debater.
Hey!
This is a pretty unique version of the podcast. First of all, Paul's not here. And second of all, I'm in North Carolina, and I've got the mobile unit here, and I'm with my dad, John Green, in North Carolina at your house in the Christmas room.
Yes, and we're going to talk about the complexity in the universe and from where does it originate.
Yes. I think a meaty conversation, and I think we'll see where it goes. But I guess to set it up a little bit, I'm in town with my family. We popped down here for a visit. We've been visiting with my niece Sophia, and my kids have been just a joy hanging with her. We've had a little time swimming and walking, and I'm trying to get the dog to like me. I don't think I'm there at all.
I think you are.
Yeah, I think you are. I can't touch her backside. She didn't like that from anyone, I think.
She doesn't allow anyone to do that, including myself.
That's fair. Oh, anyway, so we're as we said at the top, we're in the Christmas room in June. But yeah, let's talk about the complexity of the universe. I think it started with I sent you a link to an article that my father-in-law sent me, talking about just the complexity of the universe, and it kicked off with Fermi's paradox, I think, which is basically
if aliens exist, and they've existed since the beginning of the universe. They certainly have had time to have spread throughout the universe. And so Enrico Fermi in 1950 in a lunch meeting with some other, educated folks said, if they exist, where are they? They ought to be here. We ought to see evidence of them, and we don't. And that's a good point he made. But bear in mind one thing, that the universe, when it was created, whether it was a Big Bang or not, and that's been called into question recently, undoubtedly consisted of the original matter of the universe undoubtedly consisted of hydrogen, helium, and a very small amount of lithium, nothing else. And so where did the other elements come from? Well, they came from nucleosynthesis within stars. In other words, the compression of the stars created those heavier elements up to iron. Beyond iron, it takes a different mechanism to produce that, and that's generally thought to be produced by novae and supernovae. When they explode, they create pressures immense enough to create the heavier elements all the way up to uranium. And that process took an extended amount of time to have filled the universe with these heavier elements, which then were incorporated in further generations of stars, including their protoplanetary disks, so that the planets too could be built of these much heavier elements. And that we don't know how long that took, but that took an immense amount of time to happen. So life is not as old as the universe. So Enrico Fermi, it hasn't been quite that long yet. So
I will point out, I'm sure we've lost Smiley at this point. He likes to listen, but as soon as we get anything too technical, he's like, I'm out. But maybe he's sticking around. Who knows? We'll get some excitement in here. I did want to point out a couple things. One, we do have the family in the other room playing a very rambunctious game of New Phone Who Dis, which is pretty hilarious in its own right. It's similar to various games out there. But so you may hear some chatter and some laughter in the background. The other thing I should point out is a buddy of mine who actually lives in Asheville, and we just drove through Asheville on our way here. I think he played a show last night or 2 nights ago as we were driving through. And it's a shame because I wanted to catch his live show. But he has a song called Fermi Paradox and this is Thomas Wilson, so he may have to correct me. I think I played bass on it, and it was during lockdown, during COVID, where he and I collaborated on a few things. We did a Bad Religion cover, and we did, we did an original anyway, so I may send this to him. He might get a kick out of it. And he had a lot to say about the Fermi Paradox and all that. But so let's kind of think about this, and maybe we can go off the article. We can kind of go off on our own ways. But I'm kind of thinking about it in terms of, okay, yeah, if they're out there, well, one, do they even care to come to us?
Right.
Because, I mean, that...
Agreed.
That could be one thing. They look down, and it's like we're an anthill, and it's like not terribly interesting, right?
Yeah, and traveling between the stars, nobody knows if it's even possible. Yeah. And it takes an immense amount of energy and expense and so on and so forth and so on. Unless we're really interesting, we may not get a lot of visitors anyway. So
that's fair. I think the other aspect of it is time. Like timeline, and I mean, is it possible that the ancient ones were around so long ago that they've already died off, and
is it possible we are the ancient ones, and that's because of this metallicity, increasing metallicity in the stars, and we could be the first real generation of intelligent life in this galaxy.
Yeah. And that's the one that got me, and I think we've talked about it. I think maybe even in this room many years ago.
Really?
Yeah, because I remember you kind of, I don't know if you coined it or just reused the phrase, the ancient one. What if we are the ancient ones? It's oftentimes we're we're thinking there are aliens out there that will come visit us. But I mean, what if we are the ones that are going to go visit some new species, billions of years from now, because we are the ones to kick it off. Yeah.
And interestingly, the ancient ones comes from the translation of the, I believe it's a Navajo word for the Indians who inhabited the mesas to the north of them. They call them the Anasazi, and the Anasazi in Navajo means the ancient ones.
Oh, no kidding. Okay. So there's going to be some science fiction in here. There's going to be some different ways to kind of think about it or look at it. But you bring up a good point, though, in terms of energy and time and just traveling from star to star is expensive. It can take some time. We are dealing with kind of brand new mic setup here, so you're gonna hear some clicks and some in and outs, and don't worry about all that stuff.
All right.
Yeah.
I would like to mention a book I read many, many years ago.
Yeah.
By Fred Hoyle. Fred Hoyle is one of the he's gone now, was one of the leading people in understanding nucleosynthesis, that is the synthesis of heavier elements. And Fred had some crazy ideas, but he also had some darn good ideas. And he wrote a book called The Intelligent Universe, which kind of deals with a similar sort of topic. In his particular instance, he's referring to the notion that intelligent life arose in the universe, and the universe itself is intelligent, and because supposedly information can't be destroyed, that it constantly accumulates in the universe, and that's a similar concept to what we're talking about, I think. Real interesting book. It's many years old, but it's worth a read.
That is interesting, huh? Oh, what's another note you have?
Another note I have that kind of plays into this, and I'm not qualified to speak on this topic by any means, but I do have a background in electronics and that sort of thing. And I've been fascinated by artificial neurons for a very long time. And they have become a part of our world. They're involved in some of the devices we use and so on and so forth. And they're usually implemented digitally, not electronically. But the original artificial neuron was an electronic device. And they have been implemented not only electronically, but also mechanically and using pneumatics and so on. And so it got me to wondering about that at one point, and I investigated it a little bit, and I became impressed that the universe even allows this to happen. It's like the universe was built to allow neurons to exist. And if so, that's the basis of life in terms of its awareness of its surroundings and so on, and of course intelligence and all that fits very nicely with this theme. So
that's interesting.
I don't know.
I've heard the analogy. Look how perfect the universe's levers are turned to allow for life, but then you can think about a pothole on the roadway filled with water, and then you think about how perfectly the water fills that pothole, and of course to us, that's nonsense because the water fills the pothole naturally, and it's gonna fill it the way the water flows. So, are we just thinking that the universe was perfectly made for, as you say, neurons, or is that maybe similar to the puddle? Are we just thinking about, yes, it fits perfectly, but the only reason it fits perfectly is because we're here, and that's we wouldn't be talking about it if it didn't exist. So I don't know. That's interesting.
Yeah, a good point. A good point. And sometimes when you look at the laws of the universe, they seem, as you say, finely tuned to make life possible. But then again, on the other hand, has life simply evolved to use those?
Yeah.
So
yeah. No, that's where my brain goes for sure. That's interesting. Now, I guess the one piece we haven't opened up here would be talk of maybe the quantum realm, or right, thinking about things in a, and of course you hear about this in science fiction a lot, but what of the idea that thinking of quantum mechanics and thinking about how some of that works, what about the idea of a singularity in some kind of a quantum state, right, that is really part of this universe? Have you given any thought to that?
No, I haven't, but the quantum universe is a fairly recent. Well, it's not really that recent, but we haven't heard about it a lot until fairly recently.
Yeah.
And I don't really deal well with that part of physics. So I haven't a lot of thoughts on that, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same. A lot of folks I've talked to have kind of read into it a lot more than I have, and of course, famously Marvel has stepped into this world with Ant-Man shrinking down to the quantum level and going and visiting this. But I think the thing that fascinates me the most is the precision of the math in quantum mechanics, and the fact that the models are so perfect to so many decimal points. It's just that's again, it seems perfect. It seems too perfect. But I wonder if it's just that type of science, that type of mathematics is just really, the way we think of math is perfectly tuned to explain these mechanics.
Yeah, well, it's been pointed out many times that it is kind of amazing how well mathematics explains and describes the universe.
Mm-hmm.
There's got to be something more profound going on there than we understand, because why would mathematics so perfectly describe how the universe works? I'm not sure I understand that. So
yeah, well, and I mean, again, it could just be we, luckily, came about. The fact that we have a base 10 numbering system, might like if you had a different base, maybe some of this math wouldn't work out nearly as well.
Certainly is, it's certainly true. In terms of facility, I mean, if you have a base 7 system, it's not going to work out very well for you. However, on the other hand, if you followed the ancient Near Eastern model and the base 60 system, or something based on 6 or 12 or whatever have you, you have many more convenient
divisions
that appear, that computation would be infinitely simpler.
Wow.
But and we do use a base 60 system in a couple of instances.
Our clocks.
Our circle, 360 degrees, and so on and so forth. And that all comes from the ancient Near Eastern mathematics. So
I would dare say one could argue that having using the metric system. I know in studying civil engineering at the university. The calculations are so much easier at the metric system.
You betcha.
And I wonder if there's something in the brain where you learn math easier when you're dealing with conversions that are, trivial.
Yes.
In the case of a metric system versus bizarre, the systems we're using, right?
I like your language there.
Yeah. But so yeah, it makes me wonder too if we're hurting ourselves and educating.
Oh my God! You get 12 inches to the foot. You get 3 feet to the yard. You get 5,280 feet to the mile. My God, that's awful. And I run into it a lot because well, for example, just a trivial example is I use what do you call it, a program that allows me to design things for 3D printing.
Oh, okay.
And a lot of times I'm forced to use the English or SAE system to do that work, and I'm ending up doing all these conversions, and it's just horrible. But when I do it in the metric system, it is so much easier. That I beg the people of America and of Liberia, and there's one other country.
There's one other. Yeah, I know Liberia and United States and
Myanmar, is it?
Maybe. Yes. Yeah, that sounds right.
Okay. 3 countries in the world that still use that antiquated system, and just you talk to the average American and suggest we convert to metric. Oh my God, we're not going to do that. Why should we? We're Americans,
Yeah.
But that makes computation so much simpler. And
in true SoapBox Lex podcast fashion, I'm gonna pivot us to talk about units like we are here. We went from the universe to universal measuring system. I don't know, but yeah, I'm an advocate for going to the metric system, but at the same time, I have no estimation of the metric system. When I'm outside and I can think in feet, I can think in gallons. I can, you know what I mean? So like the hardest part for me would be having to kind of recalibrate my guessing, right? I mean,
that would be problematic
now,
to some degree.
I'll say the one area I feel like I'm decent at, and I know I've got friends that are even better, but working with a socket set, very often you have English and metric sockets, and I'll say I'm pretty good at gauging metric socket sets.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like I'll go to tighten something and I go, oh, that looks like a an 11 or a 12 or a. I mean, I feel like my brain has never fully embraced and carpenters I think have this skill that I don't understand. I've never fully embraced the half inch, 3/4 in terms of like a socket or
7/16 and 31/64.
Right.
Oh my God!
I mean, they're hard for my brain to like organize and order. But carpenters or people that measure the measuring tape often, and they stick with their inches and feet, and boy, they can. I can't tell you how many times I have a ruler or a tape measure, and I'm trying to put a mark on the tick mark that I need, because I can't just look at those tick marks and tell you what. I can give you half and 3/4. That's about it.
Yeah.
Maybe quarter, half, 3/4. But yeah, once you start getting into the 16ths, and it's like, come on.
Yeah. Have you ever noticed that when you have a metric set, the missing socket is always the 10, and when in English it's always the 1/4.
Yeah. Now, what are the two that are pretty much the same?
The 12 and the is a half inch. Half inch and 12 are pretty. They're interchangeable pretty much.
Yeah, I've found that in working with that you get to one size, and it's like you can switch between. Yeah. That's the one case where you can't tell what car you're working on. Because,
yeah, right. That's true.
Yeah. Which is that, because I remember that too. You have a Japanese car, you're gonna have metric system. You have a Chevy, you have a Ford, you're gonna have the English units, and that's why you have two sets of sockets. So
and this really does relate back to complexity in the universe.
Okay.
Where does it arise from stupidity?
Yes indeed. Now I will say, going in more my area of interest, expertise, the DOTs, I think, would have a tough battle switching to the universal units. Is that a way to say metric system?
I guess so. Yeah. I like that.
I'm trying to tie it back to our topic here, but I'm thinking about mile points on the roadway.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got you locate. Now, a lot of times we use latitude, longitude to locate crashes or features on a road. That's fine, but as anyone in the transportation business will tell you, you really do need a linear reference system too. You need what we call a county route and mile point. You need to know what county you're in, what the route is, U.S. interstate,
or county,
whatever it might be. And then lastly, you would have a mile point, and that mile point typically starts at 0 at the county line. Yeah. For interstates, it starts at 0 at the state line.
Right.
But that's important for locating features, crashes, roadway feature, 911. All of this is very important. Giving, and I've talked about this quite a bit in my GIS class, but if I give you a lat long, write it down on paper and hand it to you, you're not going to be able to do anything with that.
Right.
You have to put it into a GIS, a system, to find it. But if I gave you an address, a street address, that you could contextualize it.
Yeah, sure.
And if you're familiar with the area, if it was a 100 East Main Street, you can kind of picture in your head. Oh, okay, I know. The center of town is here. 100's maybe a block away. And then you might even be able to tell what side of the road it's on.
Yeah, typically you can.
Odd and even. So, and mile points are like that too, in the sense that, if I told you mile marker 100 on the interstate, you would know, that's probably 100 miles from the state line. So there's contextual clues there. Now, if you went and changed that all to the metric system, we're talking you're re-signing. So every mile. There's a mile marker.
That's right. Yeah. And in some cases, they're down to tenths of a mile.
So and that a lot of that was for crash.
Is that right?
Yeah. So if you're in an urban area on an interstate, a lot of times you'll see the 10th mile markers you're talking about. A lot of times they're on the center and the median, but those are mainly used for. Basically someone you're more likely to have seen or be able to see a 10th mile marker than the mile marker, obviously, right? So if you're on the interstate and you're trying to tell someone where you are, if you just had the mile markers, likelihood, and I think experience told us that, 911, where are you? Well, I know I passed this exit 5 minutes ago, but that's all I can tell you. Whereas now they can say, okay, I'm at 5.6 and pinpoint it a lot better. But yeah, you'd have to re-sign all of that.
Yeah.
Distances, how many miles to this city. Your GPS system, your navigation systems would be fairly easy. In fact, most of them you can probably switch between.
You probably can. You're absolutely right when you consider the cost of that, not only to government but to individuals who have to, the carpenter you mentioned, he's got to make changes, and it's cost him money. And frankly, we tried this in the 1970s, and the people rejected it very firmly.
Yeah.
Now, Canada went ahead and passed it about the same time, okay?
Yeah.
But we rejected it, and it would have cost a lot of money in 1974. But now it's going to cost geometrically more.
Yeah.
And for every year we refuse to change, the more expensive it's going to get.
I dare say at some point I feel like we're not going to have signs on our roadways, because I think everything's going to be built into navigation systems and self-driving cars if we get there.
Yeah.
I feel like eventually that cost will go away.
Yeah.
Now there may be some other costs I'm not thinking of that will creep in, but I can definitely see.
Well, tape measures and rulers and more expensive equipment that uses triangulation and lasers and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
That's all going to be expensive. Although I would guess that most of that equipment probably allows you to switch between them because it's going to be digital.
It would be digital. Yeah, that's my thought too. Okay, I want to end with a cute little transportation mile point related story that you'll probably remember. I assume. So a time ago, I think it was probably when you folks lived in Florida.
Okay.
Maybe before that. I'm picturing, I was aware of this, I'm pretty sure when you lived in Florida, that the interstate system was the exit numbers. So in a normal state, United States.
So you're not talking about Arkansas.
I'm not talking about the quantum state typically states would number their exits based on mile markers.
Right, yes.
So again, if you're the first exit, probably a welcome center in the state, and it's 5 miles from the state line, the exit would be 5.
Right, yeah.
They would find the nearest mile and number it that way.
Yes, I remember that, sure.
Florida, if you remember, had it in their head. I don't know why. They numbered their exits in sequential order. If that not redundant, maybe that's redundant. But what I'm saying is the first exit, no matter how far it was from the state line, was 1.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I remember that.
And maybe this was of interest to me because I was in transportation. But I want to think this. When did you guys move to Florida?
I think it was about 2002.
Okay, so early 2000s. I'm fairly sure. Early 2000s, that the interstate, at least the interstate system, I don't know about, they had parkways or something like that, turnpikes.
Right.
At least the interstates the exits were numbered sequentially.
Okay.
And as Florida grew, especially when they built that fun little theme park there in the swamp.
Oh yeah.
They got more and more exits along the interstate, and what happened with Florida is they'd have to go A, B, C, D, because if you add an exit in between two existing ones, you're not going to renumber them all.
Right. Yeah.
So you just and here I'm thinking about it like they've got 30 exits along this I-4 is the big scary interstate, right? You got I-4. You've got throughout the whole state, let's say you've got 30 exits. That's probably way off base. And then, between exits 10 and 11, you add an exit, or maybe 2, because this is Disney and it's getting popular.
10A and 10B.
10C. And I mean, I saw D, E, F. Now, don't get me wrong. That happens in non-Alabama states, right? This happens in normal states too, right? You do need an A and a B if you have more than one exit within a mile.
Within a mile, yeah.
But it usually, it's usually urban and complicated, and you have a need to do that. That's fine. But in Florida, it was just getting ridiculous. So, now the cobwebs are going away a little bit. I think maybe what happened is when you moved to Florida, that was the time they got their stuff together, because I remember seeing old exit 5 signs.
Remember that.
Yes. So now I remember. I bet the modeling the system was like this probably when we visited Florida from Wisconsin. So whenever in the 80s, whenever we went to Disneyland.
Yes, that would have been 1976 or 77.
Wow. I was 2 years. I was born in 76. So.
Oh, wait a minute. It must have been much later.
Yeah, I bet it was about 10 years later.
Yeah.
I was probably about 10.
Oh, yeah, you're right. It was in the 80s, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so in the 80s, I bet the numbering system was sequential. And by the time you guys moved there in 2000, they were starting to phase it out. But they kept the old numbering systems on there for a while. And that's been 25 years now. I think they're all gone now. But yeah, for when we were traveling to visit you guys, I was in transportation, so I was looking at these signs, going, "Wait a second, old 5, old 7," and looking into it, I realized what they were doing there. So yeah.
Huh.
Anyway,
I don't remember any of that. I'm surprised.
I think I paid attention to it more because
sure you
of
did, yeah.
transportation. But okay, I see we've used up a fair bit of time. We talked about the universe. We talked about numbering systems. We talked about quite a bit. This has been cool.
All right.
Glad to have you on. And
yes, it's wonderful. I hope I get to contribute again sometime.
That sounds great. Thanks a bunch.
Thanks for listening to the Soapbox. Eric, how can people find us?
Well, conveniently, we put everything on our Linktree site. You can go to Linktree, search Soapbox Lex, and you'll find all of our socials there, plus ways to reach us, ways to engage, and some of our original content, so you can see some of the other stuff that we do.